Hey guys, it's Navinad. Really going to be focusing in on our opponent's range. And this is a micro stakes game, so one of the first things to realize is in these micro stakes games is your opponents are going to have wide ranges. He didn't 3-bet, he didn't fold, so we can say that he's probably got something in the middle. When he just calls on this flop texture, he's probably got a lot of draws and a lot of single pair hands. Not real sure if I should be betting for value here because I don't know about my opponent. I think probably we can go ahead and make a value bet just based on the fact that he's an unknown. We can probably say that he's pretty call-y and not very aggressive. But it was a pretty kind of a scary card that would have made it pretty hard for a decent player to look me up with second best. Well, a lot of these videos I'm doing just happens to be that the players I sit in with are doing a lot of open limping. You don't see that too often. But I don't know if he's got an open raising range and an open limping range, but if he does have both ranges, then this should crush his limping range. And I don't have any equity to speak of. So against this unknown opponent, I think this is just going to be a check and fold. It's kind of, it's a board that just connects with so many hands that if I'm going to bet it some of the time and I'm not going to bet it some of the time, I probably ought to choose times when I have some sort of equity, which will be a pretty good amount of the time given that I didn't raise pre-flop. So I'm going to have some middling stuff, and given the fact that we have this Jack-10 texture. So pretty certainly I will have better hands to bluff with in my range 5-2. I'm going to open a button limping range against this opponent, see how he reacts. Now there's no reason that he doesn't lead here if he's got a hand. But the thing that scares me is he did check very fast. And one really, I think, accurate tell online is when people take a long time and check, they're checking to fold. Now it's not always the case that when they check very quick, they're checking to call, but it certainly makes it more likely. Okay, now we've established that he does have an open limping range and an open raising range. So when he raises, we can assume, at least for now, that his raising hands are going to be stronger than his limping range. It's a pretty small little bet there, but I really don't have any equity to speak of. I think it's a pretty trivial fold. I'm guessing that this hits his range considerably harder than it hits my range. In fact, I think that usually I'm going to c-bet the flop with my air and check back just hands that have like good showdown value, like bluff catchers. But when there is a flop texture like this that's just hits so many hands and I have absolutely no part of it, I think it makes more sense to just every once in a while kind of give up. I did pick up a 7. I don't think he's got draws that are going to call because he probably would have led those draws on the turn when the flop went check. So he either just got air here, in which case betting he's not going to pay me anything, or he's got some kind of a trap like a slow play, in which case I don't want to fall for it. So I think we've improved to just enough equity with our running 2-pair. We're at the very tip top of our range. We'll never get here this way with a better hand. So if I don't call here, I can be basically exploited by my opponent betting literally any 2 cards. I don't want to allow that. So he just had like a ace-high showdown type hand, and I would say that he kind of played it sort of well because he did miss the board, but he did have some showdown value with the ace-high if I missed the board. But the bet on the river, I think, was pretty terrible with his ace-high. I guess he turned it into a bluff. Maybe he thought I also had some sort of showdown value. If he's kind of advanced or at least decent, that could be, he could have just decided that he was going to turn his ace-high into a bluff because he thought I'd have ace-highs that were better than his and like small pocket pairs, things that he could fold out. I'm lost in this hand. I think I can rep the flush a lot more realistically than him. I do think he's probably got a lot of kings in his range. But he should also have some busted draws. And if he does have a busted draw, 1/3 pot can probably get the job done. The 7 makes sense too. And of course, if I knew he had a 7, I would have either bombed it or checked. But I think it's important to kind of visualize what part of your opponent's range you're bluffing against when you're bluffing, and I was bluffing against the busted draws that opened on the turn mostly. And I thought a pretty small bet would accomplish the good. And like his ace-highs, or, well, yeah, his showdown value type hands and his busted draws I was trying to take him off of. And here it just seems pretty doubtful that he could have called me with a worse hand, when if I bet the flop. And I think he might be good enough to realize that I basically never have a king. So he could definitely be just betting here with his entire range. Now that he makes this check, it really kind of makes me think that he picked up something like he hit maybe a 4. Maybe he's got like a 3. And now he wants to just show it down. I could bomb it. I don't know if my story would add up. And definitely checking back, I will win some of the time when he was just betting random air and just gave up. Yeah, not at all surprised to see the 3. So I think this guy plays fairly decent. Now, one thing we'll have to pay attention to is he's using different open sizes. He's min-raising some, he's 3xing some, and he's open limping some. Now, I also want to know what happens when he checks the flop back as pre-flop raiser and then calls. Well, I mean, when he checks the flop back, if I bet, I want to know if he's calling, which usually means he'll have some kind of showdown value that he's checking back because he's decent. So I want to go kind of small because I want to get looked up by like a 6. Or like some kind of pocket pair. Let's take a look. Probably he had some kind of like showdown value. I doubt we left very much money on the table. Oh, I can't look at the hands. It's not good. I think this is really close between checking back and betting for value. Against a fishy opponent, I think this is a pretty clear value bet. There's plenty of draws that can check and call. And, he can call me with a 9, maybe a worse jack, pocket pairs. But against this player, I expect he's going to check raise his draws enough of the time that me betting middle pair for value is probably not going to be fantastic. And he checks again. I think we can put him pretty solidly now on something like a 9 or a jack. So against that range, I think I do want to bet, but just barely. And so maybe he just recognized then that this was just a very scary board texture, and if he didn't have any of it, he was just going to let it go. This guy actually might be pretty good at poker. When he limps, I'm interested to see how he reacts to it. Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Um, he's probably just limping in as long as I was going to allow him to get away with it. There's really nothing wrong with how he's mixing up his play. It's just a lot more difficult a strategy than just always doing, say, like min raising or always 2.5xing or what have you. It's going to be tougher for him to balance his range, but he has more tools also. So there's pros and there's cons to his strategy versus my strategy. Mine's just a lot simpler. I do have a gut shot. I don't have any spades though. Um, I think that if I'm going to fold here, I should have bet the flop, but it's too late for that. My mistake was probably not betting the flop, but there's no sense now in saying, well, it was a mistake to check back a hand that I wasn't going to call with there, and then calling when I think it's an unprofitable call. No sense in allowing your mistakes to compound. Yeah, I mean, the last time he limped, he folded, and so we're just going to assume that's what he's going to do. We can keep our bets pretty small because it is still 10% of his stack. This is a pretty tough spot because I'm getting 6-1, but I don't beat any of his value hands, and he's got lots of equity against my hand with his draws. But I think I do need to peel, and yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna have to call him with a bet here if it's small, because that should be sort of a brick. Let's see. And now we've got the nuts, and I don't think he'll make a mistake of bluffing or betting. So I think I just want to set him in here because I don't want him checking back something like a 10 in this spot. Yeah, our hand was pretty face up there. And there was certainly an argument could have been made for checking because my range could have looked pretty weak there. But I thought if I polarized my range by making that big shove, he definitely wasn't going to fold a 10, and he might get curious and kind of look me up with some like bunk A5 type hands. Definitely debatable as to whether we wanted to donk the river. Check it to him. I think we're just gonna leave here. And yeah, I mean we do have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for the straight, but it's pretty transparent. And I don't know if he doesn't just play perfectly against me if I bet the turn. So maybe this way I can get looked up by like a pair, like ace 9, 2 pair, look me up where they might have folded the turn. Yeah, I think with 10 big blinds effective, we just ship it here. Alright, so what did he have? Yeah, we let him bink 2 pair, so Maybe if we would have bet the turn with our straight, we would have folded them out. The only thing I would be bluffing against here is king high and queen high, but I also don't mind if he just folds his equity, because he's always got two live cards, and I also, if I did get called, I can always just bink the river, right? Yeah, I think it's time to just do this. Okay, so hopefully that made some sense, and maybe we learned something or things. Until next time, Navanad, good quote, luck, end quote.